And joining us on the phone and on video is Waynard Scheller. Waynard, welcome to the show.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. How about you?
Good.
Last time I had you on the show, it was probably a little more than 3 years ago, and you were heading out with Rainbow Full of Sound to recreate the Europe 72 tour stop by stop.
Yeah,
How many shows did you get in before COVID shut everything down?
I think we got 9 shows in, and the first tour got shut down. And then we relaunched, and I think we're on our 5th tour now. We were able to get it up and running again, and it's really going great. We did the Europe 72 tour, all 21 shows, and then it evolved. And at one point, we did the Europe 72 album and the Terrapin album. And then this year, we're in the middle of a tour right now where we're starting at 72 and we're going through 77. So we're calling it Europe to Terrapin. And it starts with Europe 72, then we do Wake of the Flood, then Blues for Allah, then Terrapin Station. And we do like all the hits off each, era throughout the tour.
Of
So
course,
it's been,
when you're
yeah,
talking
it's been,
Grateful Dead, it's hard to identify what counts as a hit.
well, the favorites, I should call them. It's
Yeah.
not really the commercial hits, but like the B side of the Terrapin Station album, we do the whole B side, with Out of Siding and Terrapin Flyer and all that. We do like Help on the Way, Slipknot, Franklin's, King Solomon's Marbles, Weather Report Suite, the entire suite. I'm going backwards here to Europe. We usually start with something like China Rider, and we go chronologically through the years to 77. And I usually announce that before the show, so people kind of follow the chronological order of the Grateful Dead through the 70s, which has really been a lot of fun for us and the fans,
Yeah, and this is with Rainbow Full of Sound.
Yeah, Rainbow Full of Sound is a revolving cast of about 25 musicians from around the country.
So who's on the road with you this spring?
Well, there's, I think, 17 players this tour. So it's Jerome Parker Wells is doing a lot of the bass. And then we have 3 different lead guitarists, Alan Gilman from Tampa and Steve Bernstein from Connecticut and Henry Hood from Orlando. They've been playing the lead guitar roles. And then a few different rhythm guitarists. Alex Jordan from California joined us on 4 shows. Colin Lennox and Jim McGuigan from Philadelphia. And then a few different drummers. And, so every show is a different lineup pretty much,
That's got to be pretty interesting when you're running through different configurations, same material.
Yeah, it is, because it changes up. Like we might do like 3 shows in a row where it's the same lineup, and each run or each leg of the tour changes pretty much, and that's kind of cool in a way. Everybody learns their parts and they show up prepared for the most part. We rehearse a little bit, but we can't really rehearse too much with 17 players all over the country.
Yeah.
But considering what we're up against, it's really been coming out great and running pretty smooth. So I'm real happy about that. As the director, I have to make sure everybody is prepared, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, you're heading into our neighborhood, May 12th. It's a Friday night, Park City Music Hall.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We were one of the first groups to play there when they opened, and it's a really awesome venue. It's really, really cool. So we can't wait to come back to Bridgeport.
Yeah, it is definitely one of Bridgeport's gems for sure. It's Bridgeport's got a pretty happening music scene, so we're glad you're part of it.
Yeah, so that'll be May 12th. We're in the middle of this 17-show tour. We did 7 shows in Florida, then we went out to Colorado and did Fox Theater in Boulder, and 2 shows in Denver. Then we traveled to Chicago and Cleveland, and on a little bit of a break right now for a few days. I'm heading to the Grateful Hotel in Costa Rica to do 5 shows solo this week. and then we come back and restart the tour and do the final 4 shows
So is
of
the
the tour.
Grateful Hotel a destination venue?
Yeah, it's like one of those destination resorts. It's really down to earth, low key. It's not like a upscale resort. It's more organic and natural. You know, Costa Rica is a beautiful place, and this deadhead guy opened this place, and it's got a bar and restaurant called Sugaree's. Really cool place.
So
So
after the night after Bridgeport, you were at another hippie favorite in New England, the Stone Church.
yeah, that's another cool one we're looking forward to. A lot of great venues on this tour. We did the one show in Florida. It was a benefit show for the coral reefs that I organized, and we helped raise a lot of funds to preserve the coral reefs. And it was in Isla Morada. The Jerry Garcia Foundation came on and were kind enough to grant some of Jerry's artwork for the event. And that one was last month in Florida. That was pretty cool. So it's been a great tour. The venues are getting better as we move forward and grow, you know, and that's really good for us.
What makes a good venue for you?
Um, you know, stage and production, vibe, you know, in the place. I know for Park City Music Hall, the vibe there is great. The staff is really, really great. So we're really happy to perform when people, you know, they have that good energy, you know. But the sound in the room to us is the most important part, you know, and that has to do with acoustics in the room and production, you know, level. Um, every night from room to room, it changes, you know.
Yeah, sound up on stage, slap back from the rear wall, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, the physics and all that.
Yes, indeed. So we're speaking with Waynard Scheller from Rainbow Full of Sound. And Waynard, you're a keyboard player. What's your musical background, and what led you to your current project?
Well, I was inspired by my grandfather, who was a ragtime piano player. He played like stride piano, and when I was a kid, I watched him playing. You know, that's how I ended up becoming interested in piano. When I was about 12, I started on guitar, playing like Neil Young and stuff. And then by the time I was about 14, I ended up teaching myself piano, studied a lot of theory, and discovered the Beatles and the Grateful Dead. And I basically spent like 10 years just diving into theory and Beatles and Grateful Dead. And then, you know, pretty much once I found the Dead, I was in, you know, they basically captured my attention, and it was all pretty much Grateful Dead from that point on. I was about 15, and then got to see the Dead about 200 shows or more. I lost count at one point.
Well, certainly that the Europe to Terrapin run of shows is fertile ground for a keyboard player.
Absolutely, yeah. Keith was an amazing keyboard player, and all the shows that I saw, oddly enough, I saw one show with Keith, and then all the rest of the shows were with Brent. But when I was just, you know, discovering the Grateful Dead in the early teens, it was listening to all the records with Keith mostly. Some Pigpen, but mostly Keith Godchow. So he was a huge influence on me.
Yeah, I mean, you had over the course of those 5 years, big evolution in their sound as they were, you know, at a peak. I mean, 72, they still had that vestige of the wild and woolly sound from the previous couple of years, but, you know, tempered by the piano, but they could, you know, turn the corner and get into some sort of jazz exploration pretty quickly.
Yeah, that was the early years with Keith, and it's just like you said, the wild psychedelics from the late '60s and in '70 and '71, and then starting with '72 is when it really started to evolve into that jazzier psychedelic era, and then it grew from there. You know, you hear it through the albums, like when they hit like Blues for Allah. You know, if you ever listen to some of the outtakes, it's really just amazing hearing mostly Keith and Jerry, you know, how they were, the chemistry between them with that jazz, you know, stuff that New Orleans influences Keith had, and then Jerry's like bluegrass picking and, the jazz combined,
Somehow they made a prog rock album.
yeah. And then Terrapin with all the orchestration, it just is really cool to see it all evolve. And that's why I
Yeah.
chose the 70s to retrace the 70s to show the evolution of the music. And it's really an amazing era for music in general, but also for the Grateful Dead. The 70s are my favorite.
Oh yeah. If you look at some of the stuff that was released over that span of years, it's just amazing. So this is the part where we turn into gear nerds, and I have to ask you about your rig.
Sure.
So what do you tour with?
Well, I have a Kurzweil piano. It's my favorite sounding, like grand piano. And then I've been using Yamaha and combining the Yamaha and Kurzweil for many years. And recently started experimenting, adding some Nord keyboards. But then along with that, because that's all MIDI, then I have a B3 and a Leslie. It's a 61 Hammond B3. So I kind of have a combination of vintage and modern keyboards. It took me many years to design my keyboard rig and get it to the point where I was comfortable, happy with it. But I'm pretty happy now. So good to be able to say that.
And again, you're going to be at Park City Music Hall May 12th. Off the top of your head, do you know who's in the band that night?
Yeah, I always have to think. It's a good question. So it is Steve Bernstein from Connecticut on lead guitar, and then Jim McGuigan on the rhythm guitar, Jerome Parker Wells on bass, and Alan Lerner, who's from the New York City area, on drums. And he works with the Joni Project and worked for a little while with Zen Tricksters. It's a good lineup for that night. It's some of my favorite players in the whole cast, and we're looking forward to it.
It sounds like it's going to be a really good show, and we're looking forward to having you in the area. Where can people find you on social media?
They can go to Rainbow Full Sound on Facebook, or Waynard_Rainbow Full Sound on Instagram. And then we also have the website, which is rainbowfullsound.com. It has a schedule page with the tour dates, and there's an online store where they can get merch. We have some really cool t-shirts and pins and posters and stickers. And there's also our album, which we released recently. It's available on the website.
Oh, what's on the album?
It's 8 tracks that I wrote, and it's kind of influenced heavily by the Dead, but also by bands like Pink Floyd and Allman Brothers, Van Morrison. There's some cool tracks on it, and it's all members of Rainbow Full Sound with Mark Karen as special guest, Mark from Rat Dog.
Nice. What's the album called?
It's called American Hippie.
Nice. We will have to take a look for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. It was great to talk with you.
Maynard, thank you so much for joining us, and safe travels. We'll see you in Bridgeport.
See you then. Thanks. Have a good day. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.